Also in love. I'm still so in love. Stay hard, stay strict, stay firm. My sisters and brothers in Christ, it was not a cheap wedding. Hi, welcome back to my channel. If you're watching this video, it simply means that you saw the title and you thought, aha, finally, I get to learn how to plan a small intimate wedding. Or you're looking at getting married in a couple years, 1, 2, 3, or you just got engaged, or you're just a bored person that loves weddings and love, and you're here. It doesn't matter. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're gonna get right into it. I did plan an 80 guest wedding a couple months ago. 7 months ago to be precise. And honestly, it's time I start selling, the marriage manual, a course on how to hold and keep a successful marriage. Just kidding. It's been 7 months and this video is long overdue. I'm not going to say it's highly requested because no one said sit down and do a video for us, right? However, people have asked me over and over and over, about the wedding, how I was able to get just 80 guests, how I was able to convince my family to ensure that we had only 80 people there, how the budget, came about. I'm just going to put it out there that a small wedding does not equal a cheap wedding. Right. This is very important because I feel like when I started wedding planning, I went in with the expectation that because it was a small wedding, that I wouldn't spend a lot of money. But my sisters and brothers in Christ, it was not a cheap wedding. In fact, I would even say it was affordable. It was quite expensive. But I mean, that is also probably because I kind of have expensive taste. Anyway, let's get right into it. So, I would say that the first thing is pretty much figuring out what kind of wedding you want, right? And this doesn't even apply to just an 80 guest wedding, an 100 guests, 200, 500, whatever it is that you want to do. I would say that you want to pretty much decide with your partner what kind of wedding you want. In my own case, we had this conversation over and over and over again before we even got engaged when we were dating. In fact, I think that it had been mentioned before we even started dating when we were friends, but that's, a whole different conversation. So we had a conversation and said, you know what, we want a small wedding. We want something intimate. We want to celebrate with the people that we actually know, right? We want to look into the crowd and say that, oh, I know that person. I know that person. This person is, my auntie and, I have an actual relationship with them. So that was what we decided on. And initially we wanted a 50 guest wedding, but, we're still Nigerians after all. So we bulged and compromised with family, friends, and ended at 80. And after deciding what kind of wedding we wanted, we now had to decide on the kind of venue we wanted. We didn't want a hall too large that would not make the wedding look empty because we were just 80 guests or 50 guests at the time we started planning. We didn't want somewhere that would be too small, that would be too tight for the number of guests that we also wanted. All of these decisions started to, pop up and we had to start discussing these things. And I would say that first thing you want to do is you want to have the conversation with your partner, and it has to be a serious conversation. And to be very honest, it's not even a one-time conversation. I feel like something that needs to happen over and over and over again. When you first get engaged, before you get engaged, when you guys know that you want to get married, you want to start having these conversations, right? And I'm saying this because when we started wedding planning, the wedding that we had eventually wasn't plan A. We had plan A, plan B, plan C, right? The first plan was, do trad and then, no, the first plan was do civil and have, brunch with friends. Very cute. It's kind of what my bridal shower looked like. And then and then do trad a year after. And then plan B was to do, honestly, I think plan B was to do civil and trad on the same day. And something was different from what we actually did eventually. But I do know that we ended up with civil in the morning and then, trad in the afternoon and, a reception and a wedding party. So yes, after this, I honestly do think that the immediate next step is to have a planner, right? Nothing has to be decided. You don't even have to decide what planner you want to work with, but you want to start putting together a list of planners that are, you believe, right, are within your budget. And also, you never know who is within your budget until you start to ask questions. So you want to, reach out to planners, have conversations, look for who fits or whose work fits the theme of the wedding that you want. And that's what I did. Immediately after my husband and I decided that we wanted, an 80 guest wedding. We had our introduction. Wedding was Proposal was in March, introduction was in May, and then we immediately started talking to our event planner. We used I'm Experience, and it was a no-brainer. First of all, she's my friend, and I knew that she would deliver quality. I'm going to go more into this later, but I'll just add that I used a lot of my friends for my wedding, and I have no regrets whatsoever. I know that people are always very worried about this, because they feel like they don't get the best experience due to their familiarity. But in my own case, I got the best because of the familiarity. I feel like everyone went above and beyond because we had an actual relationship and they wanted to make me happy. And I honestly feel like if you have people that love you and care about you, familiarity shouldn't be something you're worried about. Familiarity should be something you're looking forward to because they would, bend over backwards for you because it's your big deal because they want to make you happy. But yes, speak to your partner, um, speak to your parents because that's where like a lot of the hard conversations come in, especially when you're going for intimate, you're going for small, you want to speak to your parents as well, speak to your family, and then your planner. So in no particular order, this is how my wedding planning process started. So first of all, like I said, I spoke to my husband, spoke to my planner, and then I started to handle the things that were very personal to me, the things that my planner wasn't going to handle, the things that my fiance wasn't going to handle, and these were my wedding looks, right? So in my own case, I didn't use a personal stylist because I pretty much had a visual representation of what I wanted to look like. I knew what colors suited me. I knew the silhouettes that would flatter my figure and my body type. And instead of contracting a personal stylist, I had a fashion illustrator instead. And her name is Jennifer Kristen. I would have a handle in the description box. And basically, we had a meeting in, I think, June, or yes, we had a meeting in July, actually. I think the 2nd of July, I will never forget. And, we had a conversation. I knew that I wanted to wear shades of brown for my trad. And I was very particular about my traditional wedding look because I believe more in traditional weddings as opposed to white weddings. So for my traditional look, we had a conversation, I said I wanted brown or shades of brown. And luckily for me, I found like an ashoke. That's the fabric that Yoruba brides wear for their weddings, for the traditional weddings. So I found an ashoke that had shades of brown and, reflection of gold on it. I'm like, you know what? Perfect. I saw it. There was no change in my mind. I knew that that was what I wanted. So I already knew the fabric color that I wanted. I had my illustrator sketch something for me. I didn't want a typical, gown that brides now wear that looks like, wrapper and blouse because I knew that that would not flatter me. So I went for a skirt and blouse look instead. And she illustrated that. She went into details. It had the dress, it had the jewelry that I wore, what I intended to wear, the jewelry that would flatter the neckline of the dress. It had the kind of shoes that would flatter the outfit as well. It had all of the details that I needed. So like I didn't need to hire someone to say, okay, now buy this shoe, buy this necklace, because that illustration that I got, right, and that I worked on with the illustrator, it had all of these details. So once it was done and it was ready, I knew the kind of necklace I was shopping for because I knew the neckline of my top. I knew the kind of shoes I wanted. I knew that I didn't want cut shoes because after a while I didn't find them very comfortable. I knew that I wanted to dance. I wanted to enjoy myself. I wanted to have a great time. Right. So all of these tiny details were very important to me. And, I worked with that. The same person illustrated my civil wedding look down to the fabric type that I wanted. And in less than a week, I had an idea of how I was going to look on my wedding day. And the next thing after this was to now have another conversation with my partner about the budget of the wedding. Like I said, like they say, man proposes, God disposes, because the budgets that we had, we went above it times two, right? The initial wedding budget that we had. And we started to talk. And this is a very important part of, the wedding planning process because one, like I said, we're having a small wedding. We're planning for a small wedding. And the honest truth is to pull off a small wedding as a Nigerian, as an African, because, we believe in a difference of community, you kind of need to have your own money, because having your own money, having your own budget means that to a great extent, you call the shots while still respecting your parents' feelings, right? It's a much more difficult conversation to have when you're the one putting down all of the money or the major monies that you need for the event, and you're not telling them you can only invite 10 people. Like, hello, how is someone giving millions of naira and telling them only bring 10 people to your wedding? It's an almost impossible thing to do. But when you're the one, pretty much funding most things yourself, you and your partner are funding most things yourself, it's easier to, have this difficult conversation and say, okay, yes, this is what we want to do. This is why we want to have a small wedding. These are all of our reasons. You don't have to worry about this, you don't have to worry about that. And this is not saying that they won't still contribute to the wedding. However, it is so important to, even if your parents are paying for your wedding, I feel like it is so important to enter that budget conversation with your partner with the mindset that you're paying for the wedding yourself. That way, you're reducing the disappointments that you're going to get, because you'll be disappointed. You're reducing the amount of compromises that you have to make because it's your money. You're reducing the expectations, because there'll be a lot of unhealthy expectations when, you're expecting people to basically fund a party for you. At the end of the day, a wedding is a party, right? And it's just insane to say, giving 20 million naira to throw a party. Think about it. Let's forget that it's a wedding. It's a party at the end of the day. So having the conversation about budget and setting a budget, I mean, you might go beyond it, but it wouldn't be so out of pocket. So, rough example, if your entire budget was 80 million naira, you might end up not going beyond maybe 11 million or 10 million. But if you just let everything go and you take it as it comes, you end up spending so much money that you can't account for. And there'll just be things that you can't account for, right? At the end of the wedding planning process, I feel like you may end up with a lot of regrets. I've had, friends, acquaintances tell me that, oh, they wish they didn't spend X amount of money on their wedding because they spent so much, they have regrets, they'll have used the money to buy cars and stuff. But I didn't have that regrets. We still spent a lot of money, but there were no regrets from my end because it wasn't so far off, from the budget we set. And this is also because we chose to have an intimate wedding at the end of the day. So I'll say that for the budget conversation, it needs to be very open, it needs to be very honest, and because once you can't have an honest conversation about budget and money with your partner, why even marrying them, right? At the end of the day. So it needs to be very open. And something that we did that worked for us was that we had a spreadsheet that people had access to, and it was extremely detailed. I also have another Notion document that I purchased from someone that planned their wedding themselves last year or when I was about to get married. That one I would definitely drop in the description box as well. But yes, there are templates, templates online that you can use that helps you just track expenses, track what it is that you're spending money on, track the monetary gifts you're getting, because shockingly, you will actually also get a lot of monetary gifts when you're getting married. There's something about weddings and love that I don't know about other countries, but that Nigerians love. You're more likely to get more monetary gifts when you're getting married than when you get admission to university or for your masters. It's just what it is. People love love. They would willingly give you money. And again, like I said, don't go into the planning process expecting people to dash you money. But the truth is, it will come. It might be early in the planning process, it might be very close to the wedding, but people tend to be very generous when it comes to wedding planning. So having a budget, a spreadsheet that helps you account for every money coming in, every money going out. At the end of the wedding, you're able to balance your books and say, oh, this is the exact amount of money we spent on the wedding. XYZ came from us. XYZ came from the monetary gifts we got. XYZ came from our parents. And this is the overall amount of money that was spent on the wedding. So it's so important to be able to see these things and to account for it to ensure that you're not going into debt while planning your wedding. Now, for the interesting part of this video, I feel like this is the part that people have been waiting for. All of the money talk, all of the conversations with your partners, people talk about all of these things all the time. But boundaries with family, cutting the wedding guest list, this is where the tea is, right? This is the difficult part of the actual planning process. You guys, I'm just going to let you know that there is no easy way to do it. There is absolutely no easy way to do it. Yeah. So, in my own case, right, in my experience, there was a lot of pushback, especially in the early planning stage of the wedding. It was like, oh, we're having we started with 50 guests. And we did know that we would do about 80 people, but we started with 50 because we knew that we'll have to compromise and push it. So I feel like a tactic you can use is if you know that what you do want is a 200 guest wedding, tell your parents you're doing 100 guests. So even when they start to push it and they try to, push the luck, try to invite more people, more friends, you can accommodate it. So it looks to them like a compromising, but at the very beginning of the wedding planning process, you already knew that you wanted to do 200. So whatever amount it is that you want to do for your wedding, cut into half. It's like bargaining at the market, right? It's the same bargain idea and experience you have to use with your parents. So if you want 100 guests, tell them you're doing 50. If you want 200, tell them you're doing 100. That way, when there is pushback, you're not hurting their feelings, a lot. So once you're done bargaining and then you split your guest list into half to accommodate some of the people that they might bring and you push back a compromise, I'll say another thing is to politely decline certain financial offers, right? Yes, you need money when you're planning a wedding, but there are certain people, maybe not even your parents, but there are certain family members that will offer you money and you know that there are strings attached like mad. The strings are very, very long. You want to ensure that you're not taking money that will rid you of the control of the wedding planning process. So it's extremely important. Yes, people are going to be very generous, but you also have to be very wary, not wary, but you need to be careful of certain financial gifts that you get. If someone is true of being verbally abusive or controlling, maybe that's not the person you want to collect money from, right? Because at the end of the day, after the bargaining, the compromising, the not accepting certain gifts, see, what will save you eventually, what will help you pull off your intimate wedding is being strict. I have a reputation for being strict. Everybody that knows me calls me a strict babe. I don't mind. That's okay. Strictness never killed anybody, right? It's at the end of the day, you can do all of these things. If you're not firm, if you're not strict, everything will collapse. Your illusion of a small wedding will fade before your very eyes. And it's also very important to note that the strictness cannot end with just you. You and your partner have to be equally strict. Because if one person is very firm on their decision and the other person is jelly, you can penetrate jelly, right? They'll be able to penetrate and convince the other person to go ahead with whatever plans that were not the original plan. So you have to, unfortunately, it can be very hard, especially when it comes to family, parents, people that we love and care about, and even with friends. Like, oh, I'm so sorry, you can't bring a plus one we don't know because it's a small wedding. If it's 80 guests and everyone comes to one person, there's already come to 160 guest wedding, right? That's a problem. So you have to be firm with family, parents, in a very respectful manner as well, because you don't want to make enemies with your parents who have been there for you all your life when you're getting married. So very firm, but very respectful. I'm so sorry, mommy, daddy. I get that you want to have this amount of people, but these are the reasons why we can't do it. As you can see, our hall is small. So where will they sit down? Yes, another trick putting out there is rent a small hall ahead. So even when it's beginning to work on you, the strictness is fading. When you remember that your hall is very, very small, you're forced to stand on business, right? And stick to the original plan because again, where will people actually sit? You don't want your guests to not have where to stay. You don't want to have a rowdy event. So very important to remember that as much as you have to, all of these things have to work hand in hand. Renting a smaller place on purpose, you know, bargaining, splitting your guest listings to half, telling them you want this when you know what you actually want. All of these things have to come hand in hand. But at the end of the day, you have to be very, very firm with your boundaries. Stay hard, stay strict, stay firm. It's extremely, extremely important when planning a wedding. And you will learn that this strictness will save you when it comes to dealing with vendors, dealing with planners, dealing with friends, dealing with everybody. It will save you. Now, we had an after party. No, we had a wedding party because I wouldn't call it an after party. There was actual stuff happening at the wedding party. Our vows that we wrote for each other, we exchanged it at the wedding party. We had, our friends give their toast at the wedding party. So for the wedding party in the evening, where all the other people had gone home, all family members had gone home, it was not just friends, so we could accommodate more people. So that way we could make up more space for family members in the morning and have more friends in the evening. So what I did was I only had my bridal party and my family at traditional wedding. And then I had more friends at the wedding party. This also meant that friends that didn't live in Lagos had to stream, because to me it didn't make sense that people would come down to Lagos from different states for an evening party that would last for 4 hours or 3 hours. So it didn't seem fair to them, their time and their resources. So I explained to people that I could explain to, and we streamed the whole traditional ceremony for friends and family. And it was actually streamed on YouTube here. So that was basically the strategy for guest lists. No sentiment, no unnecessary emotions attached. As simple as ABC, basically. For the wedding itself, I mentioned that I used AME Experience for the planning. Pachaba is one of my dearest friends. She's the creative director of AME Experience, and I have no regrets having her planned the wedding. Now, AME Experience was not the only person that was a friend that was, on the list. My bridal assistant was my real life assistant. There was no point hiring someone new, right? When I had an actual, person assistant at the time. Um, like I said, Bashara ran an event planning company. She had helped to plan my husband's birthday, and which was now my proposal at the time. So it just made sense. I'd seen the work she did and we brought her on board. For mobile videography, I had Koda Acrylic. The creative director is Oyinda. She's one of my dear friends as well. She's also a bridesmaid, actually. Thinking about it, 3 of my bridesmaids were vendors. Koda Acrylics, Ame Experience, and Ogi by Lami. Because Solami was my makeup artist as well. And honestly, I have no regrets. The things that I got from them during the wedding planning process, how easy they made it for me. I know that they're professionals at their work, but I know that they went above and beyond because it was me that was getting married. Like, my event planner was when I went to buy fabrics for my bridesmaids and brought it back and distributed it. And I didn't even know it. Like, I was not in the loop at all. It was like, it's handled, we've picked, yeah, we're good. She went back again after the groomsmen made their mind and went to buy the fabric. That's not something that you get from, a regular event planner. We got huge discounts. The makeup artist was like, you know what? It's my gift to you. That's it. I know how much I'll have spent on wedding makeup if, I'd paid for it. Kodak colleagues gave me insane family and friends discounts because not only did she give me 4, 5 wedding videos, she gave me raw files of every single moment. So like, I had videos to go back to if I just wanted to look at them. I still look at them. It's been 7 months, but I still occasionally, when I'm bored, look at them like, oh, I was so in love. I'm still so in love. And but for photography, we had my brother-in-law for T10's media. Literally every single window I used is going to be in the description, for 10's media as well. It was a wedding gift. Another friend, Leye gifted us wedding portraits. Leye was supposed to come in the morning, take portraits of the civil look and go. Leye waited. He got there by 7 o'clock before makeup even finished. Took portraits of the bridesmaids, took portraits of my husband and I, took portraits of us, followed us to the civil ceremony to take portraits of us there. Came back to the Airbnb, took pictures of us in our trad looks. And, community is so important. Right? Community is so, so important. Like, my community held me and threw me a wedding because everything I just mentioned that came from friends saved us a lot of money, saved us at least 3 to 5 million. Wedding videography, wedding photography, makeup. My family covered food. We didn't pay for food as well. Food. At some point I was like, we're just chilling, man, because this person is giving us this. This person is saying, oh, yeah, hey, I covered this already. This person covered, I hear people talk a lot about how for their weddings, they rather just outsource it out to strangers because they don't want over familiarity to ruin anything. And I would say that that familiarity is what gave me successful wedding. Everybody showed up and showed up hard because they wanted me to be very happy and they wanted me to have a beautiful wedding. And that is not something that I take for granted, in any way because I don't know what I would have done without the community. We would probably have had to pay for those things, but it would not have been. And money aside, the warmth, the patience, all of those things, we most likely would not have gotten it from strangers. And I guess this is me just saying that you should give a community a chance if you're getting married. You know the people that are serious about their jobs, you know the people that are very professional, you know what they'll bring to the table, right? So give your community a chance. If you have a friend that is an amazing designer that will pull off your wedding clothes, you don't have to go to someone that is, popular, that will give you the same result at an extra cost, right? I feel like your community will save you money, your community will hold your hand, your community will ensure that you have a successful event. And yeah, looking back now, I've learned a lot of lessons, right? I feel like the biggest lesson I learned from planning a wedding is knowing how to show up for my friends that are not married yet. Because I've done it, I now know how to show up for my friends that are getting married. And I've always shown up for my community, but I know better now. And, for my friends that are getting married, I have a friend getting married this year, I have a now getting married next year. I have two getting married this year, actually. I have so much I want to do for them because I know what they need. I know where I need to come in now because I've gone through all of this experience. I feel like that's the biggest lesson I learned. For hard lessons, I would say that you need to really lower your expectations when you're getting married. People will disappoint you. Hey, people will disappoint you when you're getting married. It would change, your relationships with people. I have a very unpopular opinion, right? And I feel like this is the best place to share it. My opinion is that people often say that, sometimes people change when they get married. And as much as that can be true, there are people that move mad when they get married and think that they no longer need a community, right? I'm not those people. But I also feel like one of the reasons why people change when they get married is because they saw how little or how you didn't show up for them at all on one of their biggest days in life. And they chose to stop rating you. It's a very hard pill to swallow, but it's now my unpopular opinion. People now see you and see how, because wedding is not like, it's not one day, like the months that went into planning. So how you didn't care and they just stopped caring soon. So that's my popular opinion about, why people sometimes seem like they change when they get married. Another lesson I learned is that it's so important to do things within your power. It's lovely to have dreams. I want to use the very, very, very big designers, the big stylists, all of those people. But you have to be very realistic, ask questions, ask people. I didn't use designers that were over the top. I used some really good designers, but there were people that I could afford. Uh, there were designers that were charging 3 million naira, 4 million naira for Ashoke looks. Mine charged me less than 500, right? The people that can even afford that, they'll find people that'll charge them less. You just need to find what works for you, who you can afford, and don't do more than you can afford, basically. Like, don't go into debt trying to show off. Because I've also now realized that for weddings nowadays, most people tend to spend on vendors they can't afford because they need to show up and say, oh, I use that person too, right? People are going to forget. People are actually going to, like, no one's going to remember. As long as you look good, no one's going to remember who and who you used or who styled you. If you can afford it, you should. I mean, it's your wedding, but if you can't, do what you can afford within your power. Cut your coat according to your size. I think that's how they say it. Cut your clothes according to your coat. Cut your coat. You get the gist. Okay, so I feel like I've covered pretty much everything, right? I've covered lesson I learned. I've covered how I shortlisted my guests, how to set boundaries, staying strict, how I even started like the wedding planning process itself, some of the vendors I used. Um, I think I didn't mention that for like wedding accessories, shoes, purse, I used a personal shopper for that. I just said, you know what, my budget is XYZ amount, and this is the mood board for the shoes and purses I want, and they will help me get it to. That's something that you can also, use. And that's pretty much it. This was a fun video. I feel like I've been itching to talk about this, and I finally have. If you enjoyed this video, if you're a bride to be, if you are a bride to be in next 3-4 years, whenever I see that you're getting married, do me a favor, share this video with someone that needs it, because I can bet to see that a bunch of people actually do need this video. You don't have to be planning an 80 guest wedding, as long as you plan something intimate, or you're just even planning a wedding at all. You find this very helpful. So do subscribe for more videos like this that are actually really helpful, and share with someone. Lastly, do not forget to like it. Like, I know I already said like, but yes, like it. And if you have any questions, ask in the comments. I'll be very happy to answer and help you with whatever it is that I can help you with. Like I said, everything will be in the description box. I'll see you in my next video.